that before. There we are.
There we are. We did it. Amy, welcome to the Ground Zero podcast. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's always my privilege and my honour to have guests on. Because as a lot of people know, I started the podcast literally talking to myself for about 45 minutes. The amount of people have said, "How'd you do that?" And it's like, I just like hearing my own voice most of the time, so it's easy.
Yeah, doesn't everyone do that? Talk to themselves all the time.
Yeah, especially in the car, shouting at people and whatnot. Shouting at people. But straight into it. Rugby with Amy, innit?
Rugby with Amy, that's me.
Spot on. What got you into rugby?
Good question. I think that's a good place to start, isn't it?
Especially with your handle being Rugby with Amy.
Literally, yeah, including the title. So I actually got exposed to rugby a little bit. There was a county tournament at school, which was quite rare because for young women, there's not usually these sort of opportunities at school. So it wasn't part of like your PE lessons or anything like that. It was like a little tournament that was going on. So I just had a go at that, picked up the rugby ball, and I just remembered it was like pouring down with rain and it was just like proper sludgy, like mud, and I just loved it. I was in my
Proper
element.
rugby weather, that is.
Yeah, like I was always such a tomboy, had a lot of energy, struggled to focus and struggled to keep my head down or out of trouble. So this was something for me that got my head focused and it made me release my energy. And then I was also into gymnastics growing up. I did regional gymnastics growing up as well. So I sort of loved, when I did a sport, I had to try and compete and I had to try and get to a good level.
I know exactly where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
If I'm playing a sport, I don't play it. Well, I almost said I don't play it for fun, but I do play it for fun. But if I don't compete at the best level that I can, I don't enjoy it as much.
I have to push myself. And if I feel like I can't connect, I'll just think, right, next, I'm moving on, next thing. Like I can't just sort of do things just to keep me busy or to pass time. I have to do it wholeheartedly. So I'm quite a 0 to 100 person, all or nothing. And then I stopped rugby for a little while, mainly because there wasn't many opportunities for girls at that time in my area. So I was kind of almost forced to stop. And then when I was like 17, I found a local club again and just got the passion back, really. And just decided this is what I'm going to work at and this is going to be my main thing, really. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's quite a new thing for me, growing up in, like I said before in the opening chat. I'm from Hereford, and the school that I went to was a rugby school. It wasn't a football school. In fact, we didn't even have a football team, which was unheard of in our county.
Let me know where that is. So
yeah, it's all changed now. It's all changed. I spoke to my niece, and she was like, "No, they've got a football team now. They predominantly football." And I was like, "That's a shame." Yeah, we were known as a Woodard school, which was we literally just rugby. Like we were the only comprehensive school that would take on all the private schools. Like I think it's not St. Paul's, St. Peter's in Colston's, all the big schools.
Bedford's one of mine near me. They always
and we would take them. We would take them on. We literally would. In fact, even in our county, we wouldn't even put our first team out against the local teams because it wasn't fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
apart from the private school, which was Hereford Cathedral School, because they had a very good rugby team and it was a bit of a local rivalry sort of thing.
Yeah, I love that.
But for us, I think it was year 11. So my year 11, that's when they first introduced girls rugby into our school, which would have been back in 2003. And coming out of our school, I believe we actually have a World Cup winner now with Laura Keats, who plays for, I think it was Worcester Warriors and obviously England. But even then, I was shocked because I saw that they won it I didn't even know they were playing in the World Cup. I didn't even know there was a women's, as sexist as that sounds. I didn't realise that you guys were at that sort of level to have like
you have to really look for it. You have to really look for women's sport, which is something that we're trying to change. It should be more accessible. So
I totally agree. There's obviously it's a bit of a sticky subject with obviously with certain men as well. When it comes with equal pay, equal opportunities and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, I can see both sides. If you guys are getting in the crowds that the male sport does, sure, get paid that level. But also, you're not getting the opportunity to draw those crowds in. That's it. That's the big thing. If you market, then you'll go.
It's what's being pushed out there and what's being advertised more. You know, what are the media focusing on? And it's usually not the women's side of things, which I think is quite. You know, I went to a launch the other week of a documentary called No Woman, No Try, which is coming out on the 25th. And I just encourage anyone to go and watch that because it sums up like the female, not even just the rugby industry, but as being like professional athletes, the challenges, and a lot of female athletes are having to have like your regular jobs at the same time. So people are like coming to training after an 8-hour shift as a nurse or after, you know, being a pharmacist, and then they're heading to training and then they're trying to compete and fit everything in. So you do get a lot more challenges. And I think it's coming along, like it's come a long way and it's still got to come a long way, but progress is being made. I think now more than ever.
You could definitely see the change.
Yeah.
Even in terms of watching on the telly, I'm going to speak more on a football background on this because I'm more of a football person than I am rugby, which is unfortunate because I was actually better at rugby than I was at football. I've said this a few times. I was a better sportsman at rugby and at basketball, even though I'm only 5'6", I'm just a midget. I was better. But my heart always lied with football, even though I wasn't as good. So I was always like, do you want to go and do basketball practice or rugby practice? And it's like, well, I've got football practice. So
yeah.
But I knew in my head that I'm not going to get any better at football. But it's like, I love it.
But you loved it, yeah.
It was a pain. My old man was telling me, he was like, you're concentrate on rugby. You can go better at rugby, or you can go better at football. Basketball, sorry. But it is what it is. But even looking now at football punditry, there's so many more women presenters, pundits, even on Talk Sport, presenters, etc., and it is refreshing.
Yeah, it is. But it's been a long time coming, and I think behind that is a lot of like fight, and we've had to really push to get to that point. But I do feel like now more than ever, the movement, there's been a big shift, and I think everyone that is either a creator in the women's industry or a player, we have noticed that brands are starting to clock like, okay, actually this is the big focus at the moment, and this is part of a movement. And I almost feel like some things we're doing are real parts of history. You know, we're changing the fact that they're using female models for rugby clothes, but they're using male rugby players to model the clothes and things like that. You know, women wearing men's kit, that got changed, and things are starting to change, and people are starting to sort of basically say, like, we're not going to put up with this shit anymore, and we're going to start to, like, you know, fight back. And I think we have started seeing a massive shift at the moment, and I think it's just the start. It's going to get a lot better, so it's exciting for people like me. It's really exciting.
Yeah, it's a good time to be in, and as a father of two daughters, it's good to see that there is that shift.
Yeah, because it doesn't just reflect sport, it just reflects everything in general. And it gives people some role models and think, okay, I can achieve that. And I think something that was mentioned at No Woman No Try was there was a young girl that would watch football a lot, and she really like wanted to be have football as her job. And she said to her dad, she said, like he said, what do you want to be when you're older? And she said, oh, I want to be like a footballer's wife, because she thought that was the only way she could have like a link to football. And he was like, no, you can be a footballer, like you can actually be the athlete yourself. And for her, that wasn't like comprehensive, like she didn't think about that because there wasn't those role models. But I think now you're starting to see it.
There's so many now.
People starting to think, okay, I can do it myself. So
yeah, I've got a sort of an example of that happened last night with me. So my my daughters went out for a sleepover, and one of them came back because she suffers quite badly with anxiety. She's going through the stress of her SATs exam. She's in year 6. She's got all her SATs building up, and this anxiety has taken hold, and it is a struggle. I've tried all these different techniques that I know personally how to deal with it. Some of them are working, jotting down in a journal, actually talking, because I suffer quite badly with my mental health, and I found that if I didn't talk or do the podcast, I was a nightmare. Pardon my French, but I was a bit of a cunt. But yeah, she came home, and I was watching the UFC, and it all just finished. She got a bit nervous watching it. She was like, why is that man trying to break that other man's arm off and stuff like that? I was like, well, it is. But afterwards, there was a documentary on Molly McCann, Meatball Molly. And she was talking about her anxiety after she lost a fight where she got put to sleep.
Wow.
And this is how she literally got choked out to sleep, and she didn't know what happened. And then she was getting anxious about going to sleep because she thought the lady was trying to choke her out to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Anyway, she was talking about her anxiety, and she was like, Daddy, what? She's talking about her anxiety. I was like, some of the strongest people in the world have anxiety. And I was like, and this lady is a pioneer now of women's sport, mixed martial arts. She's a voice for the LBGTQI. Jesus, there's a lot of letters in that.
I know,
and things like that. And I was telling her how much of a role model that she is, as well as all these other female athletes. And she's like, oh, brilliant, yeah, cool. Because she's a budding gymnast herself. She's trying her hardest at gymnastics. Trying to get her to do any other sport is not working. And me being
that was myself, me, but things changed.
Yeah, me being me, I'm very sports orientated. Like, in an educational sense, if it wasn't sports science or sports education, PE or anything like that, I wasn't really interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the same. Yeah.
Terrible. And I was trying to tell her last night. I was like, look, I'm all right. Got a nice house.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's it. Now I think like people are going more on actions and things like that. Then actually this is what it says I can do, because you actually have to be able to achieve that and do those things. And I was like that at school. I really struggled. I had quite a traumatic time at school, and it did affect me, like your daughter. I had extreme anxiety that started from a lot of bullying and things like that at school, and sport was like my outlet. And because I was good at it, it was like people respected me, and that was the only time that people wanted to hang out with me and wanted to be my friend. And so I kind of got like, oh, if that's what people want, I need to do that and do that. But it's sort of that change where you're like, actually, I'm doing this because I love it and I'm doing it for me. And people, people have a lot of time for you when you start doing all of that. But it's a shame that sort of has to be the thing that makes people then like you. But
I know exactly where you're coming from with that. I know exactly. I was the same. I was, especially at primary school, I was an easy target. I always say this. I was an easy target. I'm short. At the time, I was very skinny. I had big ears. Still have big ears, but whatever. My teeth were too big for my mouth. They stuck out. I was an easy target for bullies. And I had very low confidence until I was on a sports pitch playing. Even at primary school, we had a rugby team. So even playing rugby at primary school, football, basketball, I was the youngest player to play in the Herefordshire League at the age of 12 in Hereford. And I was confident and I was good at it. So I was like, I'm the man. In basketball terms, I came across very arrogant because I was so comfortable with how I played. I came across as I'm better than you, and I'm going to prove it, even if I am only 5'6".
Yeah.
And my old man used to always say to me, why don't you take your confidence from sport into actual real life?
Yeah.
Like back as a kid, I wouldn't be able to have done this. Have a conversation with someone I've never met.
Yeah.
Even in terms of, even now that sometimes, even though I'm a site manager, if my phone rings, I look at it and go, don't really want to answer that.
Phone anxiety is a real thing.
I'll just like leave it and then send a text. You know, why are you phoning me? Who phones these days?
I know. Yeah, the anxiety of the ringtone is a real thing.
Yeah. So you said that you struggled at school with certain things, bullying and whatnot. Did that then lead to certain mental health issues in terms of like you said, anxiety, or did it go further than that?
Yeah, like I speak quite openly about my mental health, and I think
And so you
it's the
should,
best
by the
thing
way.
to do. Yeah, absolutely. Like talking helps. And I think if anyone is struggling, like you just have to talk. Just start by talking, and it's helped me massively. But so that was definitely the start for me at school, where I didn't fit in, and I always wanted to fit in, and it was like social anxiety. And then that led really to me not coming out my house because I was so scared of these particular girls actually at the time. I got death threats, I got people waiting for me to beat me up, I got people hacking. Like it's just, I feel like girls as well can be worse in this sense than guys.
I've said this
Yeah.
to my missus and the kids. Well, not so much the kids, even though we're quite open in the house, but I've always said boys are different in terms of bullying because mainly it's physical.
And then they're done.
And then it's done. Where girls will just
girls,
keep
it can
going.
be very nasty and very spiteful, and it can stay with you for a long time. So I had this real fear of bumping into these people and going out, that I ended up pretty much staying in as much as possible. And I used to think if I was asleep, I wouldn't be feeling much and the days would go quicker. And so I just slept and did like just avoided things as much as possible. So that led to then a depression at the time as well. And then I kind of realized I had a bit more of an issue when I was at home and I didn't even want to go to sleep that day, or didn't even want to be on my own at all, because I was so scared of what I might do, because I didn't trust myself. At that point I realized I was not in control anymore, and that a certain feeling could overpower me and take control of, even if I consider I've got an amazing family, like I've got, great support system and stuff like that. As soon as I felt that sort of doom, nothing mattered. I couldn't see out of that. It was like a mist. So I had to get my mum, bear in mind I was probably like 19, 18, to sleep in my room because I was that scared of like what I would do. So that was when I was like, okay, I need to get help about this. And I got put on medication. I was then on medication for about 4.5 years. And I will say it did help me at the time, and it was what I needed. And I'm not like anti-medication or anything like that.
I think me and you were very similar on this particular subject.
Okay.
I'll let you carry on.
So it definitely helped me at the time because it numbed everything down, and actually that was what I needed.
It's like listening to myself.
So it like numbed everything down, so everything wasn't so scary, and I could do life to the minimum. That was what it gave me. It gave me, okay, I can function in society kind of thing, just about. And then I was able to get a job, and I was able to do all those things. But people, if they were to describe me, it wouldn't even sound like Amy. You know what I mean? They would describe me as just someone that fits in, cracks on, and does this and does that. But I know that I'm quite a bubbly personality. I'm very outgoing. I'm such a people person. But that really numbed me down at that time, to the point where I feel like it helped, but I lost my personality as well in that time. So then I remembered, like, we're 4 years in, and I just stopped feeling like I was taking it for the sake of routine in the end, and I was taking it maybe for like the placebo effect that this tablet will stop this, and it was very focused on that fixing the problem, when actually I realized I'd learned to just cope, and I've learned, but not even cope, like I've learned to be fine without it, and it was just sort of something I ended up doing. So I actually had a job, and my manager at the time was a life coach, and I like will sing his praises. He's called Martin Dawes, and he has a book out now as well called Managing the Overwhelmed Manager. It's called. Yeah, but he's just a great guy. But he sat me down, and he was just like, what is making you anxious? Like, where is that coming from? And then I was just like, oh, I'm just an anxious person. It's just part of my personality. He said, you weren't born with anxiety. No one, no one actually said, like, this is just part of you. It's something you've learned and it's developed from somewhere. And then he basically was like, you're almost keeping yourself anxious and you're keeping yourself depressed. And that really pissed me off at the time, because I was like, how dare you say I'm doing this to myself? How dare you say I'm in control? And I said to him, if I could control it, I would. And he said, well, you can start now then, because you can control it. And it was one of those things where I was like, that doesn't fit right with me. But then I was also like, but technically I am the only person that can do anything. I got it somehow, so I can get rid of it somehow as well. And then it was like, he just sort of explained the process of what thoughts are, and that's what really sort of changed my mindset. So he basically was just saying, you could think of anything right now. You could think of like £1 million on your sofa, and you could like imagine, oh God, that's amazing. Like, I wouldn't have to pay this anymore. I could probably join a better gym now, and I could probably buy my mum this car. And you could start to feel the emotions of a thought that isn't real and a thought that isn't there. So he was like, anxiety is a thought that isn't real. It's a lie. It's nothing truth about it. It's just there. But as soon as you give that anxiety like emotion and meaning, then it becomes real. So the main quote that he said to me was like, you can feel anxious, but you don't have to become anxious. And it was like, you're deciding to give that meaning. You're decided to apply that to your life. And so I started to sort of live, and every time I got that feeling of anxiety, I was like, that's just as much of a thought as that £1 million on my sofa.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can choose to give that meaning and, talk to myself with it, or I can choose to go, okay, what's the next thought going to be? Because they're all the same,
I try and say things to, because we use my daughter as an example because her anxiety is ridiculous, and I've got to try and stop myself telling her that that's ridiculous what you're saying, because I know what it's like, and my wife knows what it's like. We both have different anxieties, and as does everybody in the world, I think.
It's good for you. We need it.
Well, yeah. But with Jess, we try and I go through the training that I went through. So like yourself, I was on antidepressants, and I had it in my head that I didn't want to be reliant on a little white pill to get me through the day. So I was always in the mindset, I'm going to get off these. I went the wrong route and just went cold turkey like an idiot. But
same.
But when I was on them, similar to you, I was numb. I wasn't myself. I wasn't Sean. I wasn't Tommo. I wasn't anyone. I was just a bloke going through life at the time. I was still doing the podcast at the time, but I just didn't feel myself. And I said to the missus, I want to get off these. She was like, well, can we talk about it a bit more? Because when you're off them, you're a nightmare. And at the minute, you're all right. And I'm like, well, I'm not all right because I can't feel anything. I'm not getting angry, which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes I need a bit of anger in my life.
We
I'm
need
not
to feel the
angry. I'm not
emotions.
sad. I'm not happy. I'm just meh. And I went, I want to be angry. I want to get upset. I want to cry. I want to, as men don't cry. Yeah, they do. We all do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But yeah, I was just plodding through, and I needed to get off them. 100%.
Yeah, your emotions, you need to feel them. And actually, that was something that I resented and avoided before. And then after 4 years of medication, when I come off, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, I can feel nervous before I go to a match, and that's fine because that's normal and that's part of, you know, our fight or flight. That's part of like what stops us from getting into dangerous situations. That's part of what makes me think, oh, I'm going to tackle lower, not higher, because of my, you know, all those things. So you need those thoughts. But if when you're completely numb, it's like you're saying, you're just getting by. And to me, like, just getting by is not good enough. And yeah, I want to
totally
thrive.
agree with that one, dude. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And again, same as you, I'm not saying people shouldn't be on them, because obviously some people should be on them.
I needed it at the time, absolutely.
And I did at the time as well. But I like to think of the mind as anything. It can be trained, it can be updated, it can be made more robust, etc., etc. When I was coming off the antidepressants, I went and did a depression awareness course. I did a life coaching course. I did the amazing Inner Armour course, which unfortunately is no longer with us. It's a shame, because it was working, and because of stupid hoops that Mr. McGregor had to go through to get it all sorted. It was mainly for police or military veterans, etc., etc. But they wanted to introduce it into serving soldiers and serving police. But because it's not 100% effective, because obviously nothing is, in terms of mental health, they were like, we can't sign off on this. And it is proven to work. I've been on the course, and I went from being reliant on antidepressants to no longer using them and functioning quite well. If I start to have a slip, I know exactly what to do. I use the techniques with my daughter. One of them is the perfect day method, which I've spoke about on this loads of times. Similar to your £1 million on the thing. Your perfect day, it's what time do you wake up? And a lot of people go into the, well, I probably should get up at 8. Like, no, it's your perfect day. Why are you describing?
What do you fancy doing?
Like, you could get up at 11 if you want.
Definitely not.
And so on and so forth. What do you have for breakfast? What you then do is like your first activity yourself might be a massive rugby match at wherever the home pitches that you are at. I don't know.
Well, probably Twickenham.
There's a good point. So Twickenham. But Irish.
I know. But I don't live in Ireland, unfortunately. So I'm actually going to Ireland in a couple of weeks, though, for the women's game as well.
So how did that come about then? So
my mum's side.
Sorry, do you have to declare what nationality you are, or did they look on a list and go, right, Amy Humphries has got mum or granddad who's Irish, we're gonna tap her up?
No, so how it worked
wondered this,
was,
because I was never that good.
So basically, obviously I've played for a long time, and two of the girls that I play with currently, I saw that they were training with the Ireland squad, and I just spoke to them and I just said, that's amazing, like, my mum's Irish and my mum's side of the family are Irish. I would love to like get involved, and I'm a big advocate for, like, if you don't ask, you don't get. And
of course,
like, most of the things that I've done with rugby is because I've put myself out there and I've just said, this is an opportunity I'd love to have, like, how can I get involved? And I do that with a lot of situations, really. I'm very forward and I'm very to the point, and I will just ask. And so I emailed
forward
the coach
in life,
and
and also as a position as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I just emailed John, who's the coach, and I just said, like, I play with these other two players, and I know you're like in the process of sorting new teams out and stuff. I'd love to like for you to see me play, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically that's how it come about. And then I sent through like the passports and all of that to show I was eligible. And then went to the training camp it was kind of like a trial as such. So it was the training camp, but it was all fitness testing, which isn't my favorite thing in the world. But who loves fitness? I mean, there are a few people that love it, but they're crazy. We had to do our bronco test. We had to do what's called like a RAST test, which is like a sprinting test. We did a few like strength things like deadlifts and all of that.
It's a bit like the NFL combine, you might say.
Yeah.
Where with all the different, like, what's your 40-meter sprint time? What's your maximum?
Yeah, and they need like a base level basically, so that they have something to work on and improve on for your next time. So we did that, and I was quite happy with how I got on, even though I had an injury at the time. So I was doing all of that on an injury, which I can talk about in a minute as well. But I did all of that whilst I was injured. I just did it because I was like, this is an opportunity. I need to just get this done. And then afterwards, they just basically said, we need to like narrow down the squad, and we're going to pick a fluid training squad, which will be like the official squad. And then for games, we will obviously pick from this squad. So I was obviously just waiting nervously, and then I just got added to the group, and I saw my name announced on the sheet, and I was just like, wow, this is insane. And this just come from me being like,
feeling.
Hi. Like, and I still think it's not going to sink in until I have my first like international cap, because once I've played a game, then I can feel like, okay, I've actually done it. So we've got a couple of training camps coming up in April and one in May, and then hopefully our first game will be in June. And then there is also a World Cup as well, so we'll see how much I get to be involved in. But I'm just excited to be considered at that level. I'm happy already.
That's brilliant, considering, like you just said, it came from you just putting yourself out there saying, look, I'm eligible, come and see me play. I'm fucking awesome.
And
the one thing I've always admired
about
the Ireland setup is the fact that it is both Republic and Northern Irish. Because
which is controversial.
Which is controversial
for some people.
Obviously it always is, isn't it, with Ireland as a touchy subject. Because obviously it doesn't do that with any we'll use football again as an example. It doesn't do that. It's Republic of Ireland or Northern Ireland, and because for ages I didn't even realise until obviously growing up watching the Six Nations, and you're like, because I'm pretty sure, didn't they originally start by singing both national anthems, and then it was combined into this new?
And they just had the one, because there is a bit when I did a TikTok on the Irish national anthem, and there's TikTok. A few comments. There's a few comments on there that were like, this isn't the original, this isn't the right one. But I do think that is good that it's combined, and it's just Ireland. And if anything, it's more of an achievement if you're getting in that way. So
it considering the history of Ireland, to have something that they can both sing and shout about and neck a load of Guinness, or drink Irish whiskey or whatever. It's got to be. It's good. For me, technically, I could have technically represented Ireland.
Who's Irish?
My granddad is Irish, or was Irish, should I say? He passed away before I was born. Well, I had a concoction I could have played for. Well, I say concoction. I could have played for England, Wales, or Ireland. I always said to my mum, and I said this before, I had Rhys Thomas on, who's a former Welsh international rugby player, and this is the God's honest truth. Even though I do support England in all internationals, whether it's rugby, football, athletics, or whatever. It's always England. I always give my mum shit if England beat Wales, but I've always said rugby. If I was good enough to make it as a rugby player, I would have played for Wales, just because of the passion that they have for rugby as a national sport. As much as I saw a documentary where it shows how much they actually threw them under the bus for a good number of years because they weren't performing. Could say the same about this Six Nations, but
I mean, France had it, didn't they?
France, that annoys me.
I mean, I'm very happy for Italy because that is such an amazing, like, after 7 years of not beating them, I just think that's incredible. And the passion, I think that's where the rugby community really comes to light, because you can just see all the nations just being so happy for them.
That's
the
one
passion
thing
and
that
what it
I
means.
love about rugby.
100%
is
the
that
community.
Because you can, for example, you can mix the fans.
You couldn't do that.
And you're not going to get you score a try and they're just like, oh, fucking good try that was, bud. You're like, oh no. And then the same back. Like, my mum gets super passionate when she watches rugby. Does she know what's going on? Does she fuck? She just likes big burly men running around in tiny shorts is what she likes.
It's not a bad view, really.
But she's so passionate and she gives it all. I remember back when I lived at home, she used to turn the national anthem up like full. But then she would like put it really low for the other nations. But I totally agree in terms of Italy. That fucking try that I can't pretend that I know any of the names anymore.
And it's pronouncing them as well. And then obviously the conversion really sealed the deal, didn't it? So it was a lot of pressure on them to do that. But what a moment in history for Italy, and it's absolutely amazing.
Does the women's Six Nation, does that coincide with the men's Six Nations as well?
So actually not as much. Usually, sometimes it does, but it's starting next week. So I think there will be a slight overlap, and then it will just be the women's Six Nations. So
fair enough.
But really excited about that. Very excited for that to start. And of course, it's I've been a lot more involved this year than ever because of TikTok has sponsored the Six Nations for 4 years. They've done a 4-year sponsorship with the official Six Nations. And obviously where TikTok has built a lot of a platform for me, and I'm sort of known for that rugby with Amy. That has really benefited me. The fact that 2 years ago I started this rugby TikTok in lockdown, just out of pure boredom, because what else were we doing whilst we were at home? And then it just grew and grew. But in the last 6 months, I've like doubled the amount of like followers and everything, because the TikTok sponsored the Six Nations, and
that's what I
just
like.
led to so many opportunities. It's incredible.
So that sort of stuff is what I like, because you're actually doing something with it. If that makes sense. I've said to my kids so many times, and the amount of people I've said it to as well, I hate people trying to get famous for being shit. Like doing a stupid dance for 30 seconds winds me the fuck up. My daughter randomly starts dancing in the living room for no reason. I'm like, what are you doing? You're having a conversation. She's like, oh, sorry, Dad.
I mean,
pardon
if
the
you
pun,
could
it's
make
like
a difference. She'll get you involved with it next time. You never know.
Oh no, she's already got her uncle involved. She's got her uncle involved over Christmas.
It's all good fun.
No, but props. Here's another pun for you. Props to you for that.
Props. There's so many rugby puns we could go on.
We could.
It's a good try, though. It's a very good try.
Hey! You fucking living the dream. But to be fair, so in terms of actual rugby itself, position-wise, you're a forward.
So was never a forward before. So yeah, the last year and a half I've been a forward, but actually since I was younger, I was always outside centre, and now I'm second row. So I've moved in.
Yeah,
over time.
growing up, like I say, I was a lot slimmer than I am now. I was a winger because I was very fast, to be fair. But I was a back that identified as a forward. So any excuse to get in the mixer. When I first started playing, because I was small and I had good hands, I was a scrum half.
Yeah.
My old man had always told me that I should have been a fly half because of the ball skills I had from basketball. I was very good with my hands, and being a football player as well, I was pretty good with my feet.
Yeah. So you got the kick in
but
as well.
I was always, I never, in terms of rugby, like I said, it was never a sport that I thought I was going to be good enough for. So I never put myself out there to be the main man in terms of rugby. I was always quite happy on the wing. I had a few plays that were dedicated to me, like crash balls, or they would fucking just punt the ball and go on, Tommo, go and get that.
Go blind. That's a winger's favourite. If you chip it
blind side, it was either I was always either quick blind side fucking off, or it was crash ball, where I was literally on the shoulder of the fly half, and he would just pop me the ball, and I would just go straight in.
Yeah.
First, like a numpty. But as I joined the military and I played for the station a couple of times and for the squadron and whatnot, because I'd got bigger, I actually became a forward, which was perfect for me. Like, but stupidly, they always put me as like inside or outside flanker. Inside or outside flanker, that's not the fucking position. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a flanker, and I was like, I'm too short. I was like, why don't you just put me in the front row? And they're like, no, you could tackle well. You should be out onto. You're quick. You tackle well. Get out there.
To chip out. Yeah.
And I'm like, but I'm too small. Like I'm big. Now I'm big, but I was like, I'm too small. You need to like either put me in the pack or put me as a centre. I don't care. I'm not a flanker though. But it worked in the end.
Yeah, I quite like flanker. I think that's a good position because I feel like it's a little bit of a mix as the backs and the forwards, so you kind of get the best of both. You get the ball a lot, you're able to still like crash and carry, and also you're kind of the first out of a scrum. So I find that position's quite fun, and I like that. And I think
I love that. I loved all that.
Yeah. But
I also loved
landed
a big
second
hit.
row.
I also loved a big hit, like either this sounds wrong, either taking or giving a big hit. I didn't mind it as long as it was a legal tackle. Like I was always putting my body first, and then I shouldn't have done that. But
I think like for me, I've always been quite fearless, and that's something that I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. So like as a kid and things, I'd always want to be just like doing the crazy stuff, and like my parents had a bit of a nightmare, but there we go. But I was like that adrenaline junkie, and I think with me, like rugby, that's that you get that thrill, but there isn't another sport that makes me work at the work rate that I will put into a rugby match, because there's that element of if I don't work hard and if I don't do this, then there's the potential that
it's one of those team sports as well. It's one of those team sports where you can't hide.
No.
Because you have to be doing something.
There's a role for everyone, and
whether you're in a ruck or a maul, or you're out on the backs.
Yeah.
Because even out on the backs, you're gonna have to put a tackle in at some point. You're gonna have to do some.
And you need to, even in defence, it's important. And there's a role for everyone. I think I talk about this a lot, like with rugby. It is one of those sports where you don't have to come already like perfect size and trained and like
you're right,
that good fitness thing. Like you can literally come as you are, and there's a perfect position for you. And I think that's what I love about it, is you feel very accepted straight away, and that body confidence that it gives you, because there's benefits to being bigger, and there's benefits to being small, and there's benefits to being
that's
fast.
Got to be a huge advantage, especially in the women's game. Like in the men's game, usually, or back in, this makes me sound even older now. Back in my day, like the props were a bit fatter, you might say, a bit bigger, but to help with the pushing of the scrum. It was still fit, don't get me wrong. Fucking still run for 80 minutes.
They're very fit, and I don't know, they could outrun
you could always tell the front row from like the back row to the backs and things like that. But yeah, especially with women, because you can get bigger girls now that can go, right, I could make a difference in this team, and it gets you active.
Exactly, yeah. I just think
and everything starts at grassroots.
Negatives for me, there's a lot of positives.
You're right. So. There's very few negatives, because everybody is so, in the rugby community, it is a gentleman's sport, or a lady sport now as well.
Lady sport now.
It's a gentleman's sport played by thugs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is brilliant. It's a brilliant way to describe it, because you can kill each other for 80 minutes. The whistle blows, you shake each other's hands, you give it a guard of honor, and you go in the pub.
Yeah, and the thing I like about it is, like, you will get help. Like, if you've been tackled, like, someone will help you up. People can just shrug you and pull you around, put you in places. No one's annoyed about that. People can shout at me on the pitch, like, move out the fucking way, or get back. And I'm just like, cool, tell me what to do. Like, that's fine. But, in other sports, like, that would cause a bit of aggro. And also, I do think the one fear a lot of people have towards playing rugby is the injuries side of things, and I think that is something that prevents people joining in. But I think there is so much more happening now that to help people and protect people in the sport. People are going on, like, all the coaches and all the clubs having to go on courses on, like, concussion and things like that now.
That was a big one. Concussion.
Yeah, big thing that because rugby actually hasn't been going for long, like that many years. It's quite a new sport, really, when you think back to how far sports go. Like, rugby is one of the newer sports, so a lot of the research that come out is still, it is kind of new. So the concussion was a massive part of that, and I'd suffered with concussion that got me to hospital, and I had to have 3 months off and things like that. And it is a big part of
that shows the difference from back when I played properly. I say properly, when I was at secondary school, it was literally every weekend, and sometimes you'd have mid-week games as well. I had a concussion in 2 games, I remember, and I was back training on the Monday, ready to go. Even back, it would have been an anniversary. I think it was the 50-year anniversary of our school's rugby team. Like I said, it was a big thing. And we played in a game, and I remember I was playing my brother's year. So it was my school year versus my brother's school year. And in terms of the actual years, we were both very similar. We both won the Anglo-Welsh Cup. We both got to the semi-final of the Midlands Cup, which was annoying because we should have fucking got to the final. That would have been played at but I remember playing in that game, and I went into a ruck, but like an idiot back, I went in basically fucking head first and hit somebody else's head as I went in and came back out, and I was like, fuck. But again, like an idiot, carried on playing.
Well, I think there's like a rugby mentality that is still prominent now, which is a bit of a stereotype people are trying to break, and it is that we know it's sometimes a rough sport or a tough sport, but actually it's taking the time to recover properly is really important, because I think people get like knocked over, and because it's such a rough sport, they're expected to just get up and carry on. But now there's more like knowledge around concussions and things like that. People are saying no, stay down.
Such a progression from it in terms of injuries and recovery. Because even back when I was at college doing sports science, the evolution of recovery and how important it is, ice baths, saunas, whatever it is, to actually recover your muscles from the game. And it's just
as important as training.
Of course.
Yeah.
And especially with likes of head injuries, that is one big thing. But
yeah,
I've always said, especially to anybody that really wants to listen to me talk about my school years of being a rugby player, it felt like I was a pro, because that's how important rugby was at my school. I've even got my first team jerseys. It's in here.
Oh, that's so good. Love that.
But where was I going with that? Oh yeah, that was it. I had more injuries in basketball than I ever did playing rugby.
Well, that's it. Yeah, there's a risk element to every sport, really, but not even every sport. There's a risk element in life. And actually, you can live with the mentality of like, what if, what if, what if? But actually, you know, time is precious. And I just think like you need to live in the moment.
That goes back to the anxiety thing. What if I can't play? Because what if I get a bad tackle?
Well,
what if somebody clotheslines me?
Yeah.
So I remember watching my brother play for the first team, and my brother, a bit like me, we played on the same wing basically. He's probably faster than I was. He's not as big as me, because I'm massive. But I remember watching him. He had the ball and he must have gone for about 50 meters full pace, and this lad has just gone, well, I'm not going to catch him properly, and he clotheslined him. And I remember him clotheslining my brother. He spun round, fucking landed, didn't look good, carried on playing, and then he ended up having to go to hospital, and he was in a neck brace for fucking like weeks. And I was like,
wow,
that's mad. I'm going to carry on playing though, because that might not happen to me. That was my head. I'll be all right.
I do think you have to be like wise, and something that I'm not very good at is.
Oh no,
like,
you said you had an injury, and you went to the Ireland trials with an injury.
That's not a good example. I'm not. So I like. So for me, So for me, rugby's
do what I say, not as I do.
Like, exactly. Yeah, like rugby's my escape, and like you say, mental health something you have to continuously work at. And I'll put my hands up and say, if I don't play rugby, I struggle with my mental health. And I'm still, still working through anxieties and things like that. But I'm trying to do it just through what I know I can do, rather than anything else. But I just say, you do have to think about the recovery side of things, and actually try and take your time, because you have like that fear of, oh, I might miss this game and I might miss this, but actually you could be out for longer and so forth. So there is that side of things, that listening to your body and properly relaxing. But it's hard to say when, because for me, if I'm injured and then I know I have to have like 10 weeks off, I'm like, wow, what am I going to do without playing rugby? Like, I need to be able to think about like mental health. So I end up going to training and just sort of being there to say hi to everyone. And then I'm like, oh, I picked up a ball. That's a good thing, though, because it's played. So,
what you started there is, even if you're not training because you're injured, that's one thing that I was shit at as well. I still am. If I get injured, I'll go, oh, I'll just play. I'll play through it. I've basically got no ligaments left in my ankles through basketball and through a hereditary thing that my dad has as well. I roll my ankles walking down the road, even if it's flat. But the amount of times that I roll my ankles, really badly hurt myself, and just go, well, I'll just put a bit of strap on it and I'll be all right.
Yeah,
you idiot.
My injury
you should give yourself 6 to 8 weeks to probably recover properly. But didn't want to do that, because, like yourself, any type of sport, when I was growing up, that was my outlet, that was my passion.
Exactly. Yeah.
But what you've done there, in terms of your mental health, you've gone to your community, which is also probably a therapy in itself. Even if you're not talking, oh, I feel a bit shit today, you're still talking, and you're in that special type of loop where you're in and you're surrounded by like-minded people that you want to be surrounded by. And I bet every time if you're not training, you're just there, you've watched practice, you're with the ladies, you're having a good chat, you're having a bit of banter, and you could probably go home and go, oh, I fucking feel good now. I want to play, but I feel good now.
But I feel good, exactly. No, that community definitely brings that element, and that keeps you. And people do check in on you. They text you, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks," and there is that element to it. And also, I find like that TikTok side of things, like the TikTok community is like, if you've got your rugby community at your club, but TikTok's got millions of people you can reach and millions of rugby players that you were to post. I posted that thing with Loose Heads about my mental health, and the amount of people that just got in touch. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the amount of people that got in touch and was like, I've felt like that as well. I've experienced this as well. And for me as well, that helps me knowing that I'm actually making a difference, and people are starting to talk to me about their problems or challenges that they're having. And so the community now, thanks to social media, has expanded and multiplied massively.
The annoying thing is with social media, though, is it can be a double-edged sword.
Absolutely,
which is the pain in the ass with it. But in terms of community and support, fucking brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always
and there's going to be trolls out there all the time, and people that comment and things like that. But ultimately, I just think like there's someone behind that screen, and if I was to meet them in person,
they wouldn't
I'm sure the conversation would be very different.
It would be.
And actually, you start to think this is a them problem, not a me problem, and that's how you.
They're probably struggling in their own way, and that's their way of getting it out.
Yeah.
Like I heard a quote last night from the UFC. I believe it's a quote from Game of Thrones. I don't know who said it in Game of Thrones, because I'm that one person that hasn't seen it.
I don't like that. Unpopular opinion, never seen Game of Thrones.
Oh, there we go. We are literally the same person.
There we go.
But it's lions don't concern themselves with opinions of sheep. So
there we are. Yeah, exactly that.
Because I had one the other day that popped up. I wrote a book, and it's got mixed reviews from people that I served with in the military. A lot of them said that I've made a lot of stuff up when I haven't. And it's also been confirmed by a lot of people that I have served with. But certain people that I also served with said that it's not. And it's like, cool, I know what happened.
Yeah.
Just if you don't like it, just don't read it.
Yeah.
But he's put a comment on the post I put out about it, because the book's a year old now, and he's put this comment. He's also made up a little book review thing, which, why have you got the time to do that? I'm not exactly Joe Rogan.
It's a compliment, really. Someone's willing to put that much time.
He's put like something like, I wouldn't even bother reading the parts about Afghanistan. It's like, why have you felt the need to put that? So I'm just going to delete that, and now you're blocked. So congratulations.
Yeah, I've got no time for it. Absolutely.
But also, thanks for giving me a comment. You're welcome.
Yeah, that's it.
I always thought you were a sheep.
To my views.
I always thought you were a sheep during my time in the military, because you followed everybody else. But good for you. The military is a bit like school, by the way. So you get the popular kids, and a lot of people will go with them. And if you're not part of the popular kids, they kind of shun you a little bit.
Yeah.
But also, don't care anymore. I used to. It used to really affect me really badly, to the point where I got in very, very dark places. That I'm not afraid to admit. I got into places where I was like, well, I just can't be bothered anymore.
Really?
I'm just going to do it. Thankfully, I never did, because it would have left my two girls without a dad, would have left my wife without a husband, my brother without his brother, parents without their
those
son,
things that you would have missed.
etc. But I got through these negative comments, through my own personal issues that I was going through. I was in a very dark place. I was very negative on myself. I look at myself in the mirror and think, well, what are you? What's the point of you?
Yeah. I've literally been exactly like that.
I would literally look at myself and go, "Why, your daughters are not proud of what you're doing. You're a mistake."
Yeah,
and I'd be saying that to myself.
That we can make up, and the lies we can tell ourselves are unreal. And we would never ever dream of ever talking to anyone else like the way we talk to ourselves.
No.
And I used to practice going to the mirror and complimenting myself on saying something good that I've achieved. And it's difficult. It's actually difficult to find the words.
I do it now. I look, because I've gained quite a bit of weight since the lockdown started.
Who hasn't in lockdown?
Who didn't? I managed to lose a little bit because I did a charity football match that I organised for a military charity, Rock to Recovery.
Nice.
So I lost a little bit, but then I put a little bit back on because I'm also now 35. I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But occasionally I look at myself and I'm like, you fat fuck. You are. What has happened? What has happened to you?
Where did it all go wrong?
But they're not. And it'd be, my worst thing would be like scrolling back through my phone photos, and I've got a couple that are saved from when I did the white collar boxing, and I literally went into full fight camp. I ended up with a proper 6-pack. I was ripped. I was ready to go. I was looking at it going, that's what you look like. Now look at you. But then my wife always says, she goes, I actually prefer you a little bit bigger. I'm like, oh, I'll take that.
Yeah. And also I start to look at pictures of myself back then, and I asked myself, were you happy? And actually I wasn't. I really wasn't happy before. And, you know, it's got its perks. I've become a second row, and actually my rugby career has flourished since I've become a forward. So it's all has its meaning. But yeah, I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh God, like you were not happy back then and stuff. And also I'm like, that was me, and that was me a few years ago. And part of growing up and becoming a woman and not a child anymore is that you're going to look different, and you have to start just being like, being less harsh. And I also think about all the crazy shit going on in the world right now. And I'm pretty sure people don't care if you're a size up or low when it comes to the crunch time. And we don't know what's going to happen in this world anymore.
Well, I'm telling you
really
now,
care about what we look like and what size
strong,
we are?
I'm stronger than a few. I'm faster than a few. So if a zombie apocalypse happens, I'll be all right for a bit.
I feel like I'd make it to the point, and then I'd probably be like, I'm gonna if you can't beat them, join them. But there we are. I know. So I just think nothing's guaranteed. Like, do you want to spend your time like being miserable and obsessed with trying to achieve something that you once was, or do you want to actually accept your life now, love yourself for who you are, and start showing yourself some kindness? Like, wow, kindness goes a long way, and we can show other people, but we forget about it ourselves. Like, my job is in healthcare, and I look after people all the time, and I'm amazing at looking after people. But if I have to give myself any sort of self-care or anything like that, I'm like, what's the point? Why am I doing it? Who am I doing it for? You're not worth it.
My wife is exactly the same as that. She is the first person that people phone if they're struggling or upset. She always neglects herself. And the amount of times I've told her, I went, you need to just chill out a little bit and have some you time. It's little things. Like, she does have a little bit of OCD in terms of the house. Our house looks like a fucking show home all the time. She's constantly cleaning it. But
you've won really.
I don't mind it. But if I'm off and I've like not cleaned something, it's like the end of the world. And I'm like, but I just take that as it's a bit of banter now, really. But if I'm at work and she's texting me, or I send her a text saying, how's your day going? She goes, oh, I'm not motivated. I haven't done anything. I'm just sat on the couch. And I'm like, just fucking chill out then. Have a nap.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine to not do anything. And that's fine to not have done a massive thing on your to-do list, and have those days where you're just actually, I've not got any plans tonight, so I don't need to fill my time and fill things, because actually by filling your time, you're just you're avoiding yourself. You're avoiding yourself otherwise, and you need to be comfortable in your own company. And that's something that I'm definitely learning, but something that I'm seeing the value in, like when you spend time just being like, because I am such a busybody, like I've always got plans and I'm always going somewhere and I'm always doing something. And then if I'm on my own and I've got nothing to do, I'm like, oh, like I feel like this is weird. And actually, I'm trying to get more comfortable with just being on my own and being like not having plans or not thinking of the next thing, and just being like, what do you fancy doing right now, you know, and trying to be more in that moment. And I think that again is like, you know, you wouldn't neglect our physical health like that. Why are we starting to neglect our mental health? And, you know, seeing ourselves like we need to look after our brains.
Not all injuries are external. Some of them are internal.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I've said to my daughter again. I like to use her as an example. She'll look back on this one day and go, Dad, why do you keep talking about me? Because you're a pain in my bum. That's why. No, but one thing I always tell her, and it's one way that I deal with my anxiety, is that obviously anxiety is in the future. You're thinking about the future. Future hasn't happened yet. You can't control what's going to happen over there. So stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it. Think about what's happening now.
And that's literally spot on. Like I tell myself like so for example, I was going to meet a friend for dinner and I started having thoughts about me having a panic attack at the table. And then I started thinking how embarrassing, like you've got to tell her like, oh, I've just got to like go to the loo. And then what if when you get to the loo, you can't physically bring yourself to sit back down at the table, and then you're going to have to say, oh, I've got to leave, and then you might have to lie and make up an excuse. And before, like, I was going through this in my head, and then this scenario hadn't even happened, but it was like,
you've made the scenario happen.
And then I actually started doing like mindfulness, and then like part of the mindfulness was like, think about the thing that's making you anxious. And I was like, right, going for dinner with my friend because I'm anxious because I feel like I'm going to feel claustrophobic and trapped and all of that. And then it was like, okay, now think of the same situation but without the story that you're telling yourself about it, because that's not happened yet. And then I was like, okay, it's just all the facts are I'm going to this restaurant, I'm going for a meal. That's all I can say, and that's all we know because we don't know what's going to happen next, so we can't do it. So actually stripping it back, like, this is all I know, right? I have a rugby match at this time, I'm going to drive there at this time, and that's all I know. Like, you don't know how the match is going to go, you don't know if you're going to have a successful time, you don't know if you're going to get injured, but all you know is that this is what it is, and focus on the facts rather than the story that you're telling yourself about the situation that's not happened yet.
Exactly. You know? Right, before I take up any more of your time, because you said an hour and we've definitely been over an hour, we could probably go to full Joe Rogan, but not today. We'll do that for a part 2.
Part 2.
Me and my brother have both said this now. When we've played any type of sport at any level, we've always had our own little superstitions. For example, when I played basketball, I used to always have to have a sweatband on my right arm. I had to wear number 8. If I didn't wear number 8, I didn't think I was going to play well. Little things like I'd have to touch the court as I go on to it. And then football was always silly things. I'd have to have like a little bit of tape on my left wrist. Weird little things, and if I didn't have it, it's like, oh, I'm not going to play well.
Very well.
Rugby, I had to have short sleeves, so my school rugby team always big long sleeves, heavy jersey back in the day. So I'd have to roll them up, and I would always wear short socks. Like I would always get bollockings because we'd have to have we'd always have to look the same. Like from Tommo on the end, who didn't have his socks rolled up. Do that again, you'll get a demerit or a detention. It's like, well, no, I'm just gonna not do it. But little things like that. Do you have any random superstitions when you play?
That's such a good question. I don't think, for me now, I can't play without my scrum cap. And that's not necessarily a superstition, but that's something that if I didn't have it, I would be really conscious about it. I'll probably not play as well. There's nothing particularly like that, I'd say, but I always have to have that. I started wearing like these knee pads when I got a knee injury, but for me, like, people say strapping doesn't do much, but I have to have my ankles strapped. Like, I have to have them strapped. I'd rather not play than have them, you know. So that's something that, like, if that didn't happen, I would be like, well, I'm just not gonna not going to play. But yeah, it's nothing like superstitious as such. So, but yeah, I might like
it's a
just
strange,
keep an eye
it's
on
a strange
myself to
thing.
see if there's anything I do.
It's a strange thing. Like,
yeah,
me and my brother has to do everything right side first. So his right boot, right shin pad, right sock, right leg in his short, and then the other legs. But then he wouldn't wear his shirt until he walked onto this is football. A bit like Paul Ince used to do. So he wouldn't wear the shirt until he walked onto the pitch. It was weird. He's a weird. But yeah, silly though when you think about it.
It's fun. No, it's all around like routine though, because I think, to be fair, it all probably links back to like being in the right mindset, and we create something that we think means that that's going to happen, but actually the right socks or doing things the other way around is nothing to do with that. But if that's what settles our brain, sometimes that's what it is, you know. But
the
amount
of times
I'm not a very superstitious person, so
the amount of times at basketball
thing.
that I'd get to my kit bag and I'd be like, I haven't packed my fucking sweatband.
Yeah.
And I'd have to speak to my best mate and go, have you got a spare one?
Yeah.
But then he's the same as me. He would always wear white sweatbands where I had to wear black ones. I was like, have you got a spare one? He's like, yeah, but it's white. No.
Oh no, I can't do it.
Can't do it.
I think like there's definitely things I have to have.
Have you turned up to the game yet? No. Could you bring my sweatband?
Yeah.
We tip off in 15 minutes. You might want to put your foot down.
Yeah, hurry up. Like chuck on the pitch when you're there. Yeah. No, love that. Well, I'll keep an eye on myself.
Yeah.
See if there's anything
you let me know.
I do.
You let me know. But dude, genuinely, I won't take up any more of your time because it's been over an hour talking, but we're 4 minutes to the 9. So if we started at 8, like we said we're going to do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it's all good.
It's been an absolute privilege, mate. Genuinely. I could literally sit here and we could talk all night, I think.
Yeah, we could.
Genuinely, I think we could. If I stayed talking any more, I'd probably finish a bit more of the whiskey, which is not a good thing. I got work in the morning.
There we are.
But
love it.
Genuinely, thank you very much for coming on, and I'd very much like you to come back on.
Yeah, definitely. No, thanks for having me, and we'll do a part 2. You know, and let's see if I can get that first international cap, and I'll keep you posted.
That'd be brilliant.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for coming on the Ground Zero podcast.
Thank you.
Cheers, buddy.